So my name is Jeff. This is called Job Searching with Jeff. I work in the Career Center. Some of you know me from that. Some of you might know me from teaching. I also teach in the College of Business. I teach a finance class. But today we're going to be talking specifically about how to job search in this kind of new world, new normal, as people have been actively saying. So before we kick this off, I want to give you a couple pieces. Services offered in the Career Center. We do a lot of different things, and especially now that we're virtual, a lot of things feel like they're different, but for us, they're very similar, just we now have a camera between us. So starting next week, we'll be having a virtual front desk Monday through Thursday, 12 to 5. So if you, kind of like how you popped onto this Zoom call, if you just click on a virtual front desk button, which will be up next week, you'll be able to see our live front desk and ask any one of our student assistants or advisors questions, which is a really cool function. You can either type it in to the chat function, or you can just pop in and ask a question to a real life human, which I think is kind of a cool feature. On top of that, we also do appointments. So kind of like this, we do appointments one-on-one with students, 9 to 4, Monday through Friday. So if you ever want to meet with an advisor like myself, we have 5 advisors in the office, and each one of them works with a different set of majors, or in this case, colleges. So I work specifically with the College of Communication and Education, and I also work with the College of Agriculture. So if your major falls within either one of those colleges, then you're on my docket of students that I advise. If not, that's totally fine. You'd be meeting with one of our other advisors in the office, and if you love them, great. And if you and I tell my students this all the time, if you feel like you've gotten all you can out of me and you want to ask another advisor more questions, feel free to jump around advisors and keep asking questions. We absolutely encourage that in our office. But for the most part, you have an advisor, someone who you can work with over and over again. And I see a lot of students, what I call repeat customers, over and over again because they have a lot of great questions, and I encourage you to do that. So in those appointments, if you want to do a job search like what we're going to talk about today, you want to talk about internships, if you ever want to take a self-assessment, and a lot of these things are other webinar topics, and you can just come watch, or you can come do them one-on-one with an advisor. Self-assessments are just kind of like the Myers-Briggs, or in our case, we use a product called Focus 2, and they're theory-based assessments, kind of like, I don't know, BuzzFeed quizzes, if you will, about yourself. They're 3 to 5 minutes, and they tell you jobs that you might be interested in, or career paths, or areas you might want to go into, especially if you're a freshman, sophomore, junior, you're just trying kind of figuring out what you want to do. It's a really great assessment tool. We do a lot of resume reviews, resume creations with students, helping you go either from 0 to 100, or take it from 98 to 100, wherever you are on your scale of resume creation. I work with people with really, really good resumes and kind of tweaking it, all the way to people who have never built a resume in their life before. And we build it together. Cover letters, same kind of concept, anywhere between 0 and 100, and try and making it awesome. We do a lot of interview practice. Hey, I've got an interview next week, Jeff. Can I work with you on some interview questions, or can I practice a full-scale interview? And absolutely, we do that all the time. And mostly, my life is pep talking students. So most of our day is just kind of letting you know that you're enough, and what you're doing is good and appropriate, and you're on your way to finding a job or a career that you're interested in. And we're just kind of here to guide that process, which we absolutely love as a team. We do a lot of webinars. So we're now doing them weekly, all the way through the fall semester. So awesome that you all are coming in here. We do events, and we'll talk about that in a minute toward the end. And we do a graduate school and a career fair this fall, and they're all going to be virtual, which is kind of a fun new process. And we'll dive into that. So without further ado, let's jump into this process. So the 4 things we're going to kind of cover today are the pre-job search, resume, and research piece. We're going to jump into Handshake profiles and job searching. And Handshake is our vendor. It's like our Indeed.com job search tool for Chico State students and alumni. So that's Handshake, and how to optimize your profile, how to search for stuff within Handshake. Number 3 is who's hiring, like as of right this second. So we have a dashboard that we can show you in appointments, like a live dashboard of who's hiring. We also have a LinkedIn article, which you'll see in a minute, it's like a student user interface. So you can also see who's hiring. It's a little bit different interface. It's not as robust as the one I have access to, but the cool part is you make an appointment, I can show it to you live. We can share screens, which I'll do later today. And we can kind of show you all that. And then how to create, once you find an employer or you make a connection with somebody, how to make that email ask. Because I think that's one of the hardest things when you're searching for jobs is how do I follow up with that employer, whether I got an interview or I want an interview or I want to know more about a company, let's say Google, Nike, Levi's, whatever the company is that you're interested in. How do I do that? So this can be as interactive as you want it. If you want to ask questions, feel free, like I said, to either raise your hand, digitally, pop in, ask a question, unmute yourself. All that is fine. And if you just want to sit and watch, that is fine too. So let's do this. Resumes and research. I think they go hand in hand. A lot of people want to make one resume and send it out to a ton of different companies. And can it work? Short answer, yeah, it totally could work. Long answer is, I think it's often a better approach if you do some research about that company before you actually jump in and make that resume, because oftentimes you might be tweaking the content to fit the company or the needs of that company. So the basic format of a resume is having your name and contact information, your education levels, your experience, and oftentimes some sort of set of skills, or something that adds some value to you as an employee. And to get to that kind of advanced route, the question I like to ask is, what value do you have that employers are currently seeking? So every employer is going to be a little different. One of the benefits about applying to an industry, like if I say I want to be a teacher, applying to the teaching industry, is a lot of schools will want similar things in a teacher. If I'm applying to a farm and I want to be a farm hand as a student, a lot of farm hands will be looking for similar types of skills. So I would make 5 different resumes for 5 different teacher jobs or 5 different farmhand jobs. I would use one resume for farmhand and one resume for teaching, because they might have different values that those 2 general employers might be seeking. So no, you don't have to make 50 different resumes for 50 different job applications, but I might tailor it to retail or part-time work or a specific internship, maybe in engineering that you're looking for or whatever. And some of the best ways to find that information about what that company values is very quickly in the job description. So what do they look for? What do they see? What kind of skill sets or characteristics are they looking for? And almost always those are directly written in the job description. So you don't have to go searching for those. They're right there in front of you. I also recommend creeping on the website. So if you are good at reading those About Me pages or Googling and trying to find a company's annual report, I think that's one of the best ways to really get to know the company or the employer that you're looking for. I work a lot with teachers, and I always tell people, like, Google the PTA minutes for the school you want to work at. Go look at the district website. Go look at competing high schools or junior highs or elementary schools in the area you want to work in, and just start to get to know the culture, because that's really important, whether you're working in the corporate world or in this case, education. Getting to know who you're working for is going to help you make your resume so much stronger so you can kind of tailor your content. And then the last piece on this list was LinkedIn profiles of current or past employees. If you can find people's profiles, you can typically see their work history, or essentially their digital resume. And that can often give you verbiage to add or possible experiences you might need in order to get to that level of career. So let's say you want to be a principal and you see that all the principals have at least 3 to 20 years of experience. Well, then maybe you're here as a student. You need to, you probably need to teach for at least 3 to 5 years before you can probably become a principal. So what we're trying to do is figure out what skills can we glean today that can get us on that track to that dream job. I'm just using teachers and principals as an example, but this can go for any industry. So if we're making ourselves an advanced resume, my suggestion would be, let's make a list before you make your resume, or even if you have a resume already, make a list of all the things that you've done. And I say things, but that's jobs, volunteer experiences, maybe it's classes or coursework, or clubs or organizations you're a part of, or rec sports or something, right? Your goal is to create as much content that's valued by the employer as possible. So if you can find out stuff that they're looking for in an employee, Awesome. And something I didn't add in that green circle is don't forget to hit up the Career Center, because we have a lot of contacts that you can reach out to and do informational interviews with, ask them how they started, ask them what the job is like, even before you even submit a resume. And I often recommend utilizing us because we're a really good connector, because it's pretty low stress when we connect you with an employer. So after you list all your skills, and don't get me wrong, this process does take a while, and that's why we work one-on-one with students and student appointments all the time, is because sometimes you need a little bit of help guiding this, but you can absolutely do this process on your own. After you get all your stuff kind of written out, then put them into categories. So for me, I might have a section called teaching experience. You might have a section, if let's say you're an accounting student, called coursework or courses taken or required coursework. And you might talk about your 5 top-level tax and audit accounting classes, managerial accounting, financial accounting. And you're just kind of really focusing on, look at me, I'm an accountant. And you're kind of really focusing on that value to your future employer. Those of us who might be biology or chemistry students might have research experience. Maybe you've worked on a research project, or you've worked with a graduate student. That can be a really nice add. For those of us who have been to conferences, whether they're live or virtual, or if you've had the privilege of presenting at a conference, whether it be a paper or just a topic, you might have presentations and conferences on your resume, or you might have like hands-on, like specific industry research experience. If you have that, and these are people at all levels of profession, these are really good things to start to categorize on your resume so you can really start to add value to that future employer. And lastly, after you get the topics of what you've done, you put them in the right categories, then we have to explain why they're valuable. Because the hard part for a lot of people is that we just assume that the employer knows what we've done, or they know the acronyms of the old industry that we used to work in. And so I spend a lot of my time with students and alumni, clients, working with describing how you did what you did and why is that important to that employer. Because we could take a lot of jobs that might seem totally non-transferable, like I'd say babysitting to accounting. Like they might not be directly connected, but we could probably find what we call transferable skills that take you from your old job to your new job. And one of them might be something like attention to detail, or your trustworthiness. And we could talk about how to describe those skills from an old industry to a new industry that transfer over and make you of value to that company. And I took a very extreme example of babysitting to accounting, but let's do something a little less extreme, like say you worked at a department store, say you work at Kohl's or JCPenney's or something. You probably deal with money, you probably deal with customers, you probably deal with a lot of stressful situations. Those types of skills can absolutely transfer over to a new industry, and whether it be accounting or, could be just about any industry, those skills are helpful. Most positions you're working with the public or a client or some sort of service. And at that point, you'll probably need those service skills. So that's why I think it's important that we don't dismiss some of your old jobs. They all add value. Some add more value than others. And that's where we kind of get to work on that. So let's look at the skill statements. For me, I like to start, and here, I'm going to pull up my annotation tools because I think this is kind of an important piece here. It's how we describe what we're doing. That's the important piece. It's not always what you did. It's usually how you did it. So as we are looking at this process that we call verb scale task, we like to describe what we did in a very replicable format. So I usually start people in the middle section of the skill. I'll say, list all the things you did, like list the skills. So say you worked at a restaurant, maybe you waited tables, you took orders, you delivered food, you greeted customers, like you just have this list of things that you've done. And after you kind of list that list, then we build a sentence around that one skill in the middle. So I start with the middle column, which is the skill. So in this case, we're trying to highlight our communication skills and our time management skills. Now to build that sentence, we typically start with a verb and we take out the subject. So instead of like saying I enhanced or Jeff enhanced my communication skills, we're starting with the verb and saying enhanced communication skills or developed time management skills. And that is an important piece because we're trying to get right to the point. We're trying to make this a really easy read for the audience member. And that is such an important piece that we often forget as resume writers or as the student in this world is that this document isn't for me. The document is for a future reader. And so if I can make this as easy for the reader to read as possible, to glean as much information as quickly as possible, that's preferred. Because an employer might only spend, 5 to 30 seconds on your resume. And we want to make sure that you get as much content across as possible and you make this as easy for them to read. So we have our verb, we have our skill, and this book beneath you has all of these things that we're talking about and a list of skills, a list of verbs that you can kind of pull from. We have a 2-page verb list in our career planning handbook. So feel free to click on that. Or I'll put the link in the chat function at the end if people are curious. It's on our homepage, and you can look at our career planning handbook, and has a lot of the same content in written form. The third part of the sentence we call the task, or what I now affectionately call your evidence of success. I want to know who, what, when, where, or why you did that skill. Like, why is all this important? So for these simple examples, you enhanced your communication skills. I would say, how did you do that? And the answer is, well, I enhanced my communication skills. How? By working one-on-one with students to develop better study skills. Okay, great. Now I know that you bring a skill and you told me how you did it. That's a really helpful piece. So the next one is developed time management. I maybe write how, and the same kind of thing. So I took who, what, when, where, why, how was the best fit. I could have asked why. Why did you develop your time management skills? But it might not be as important as how you did it. And so in this case, it was by prioritizing tasks in order to increase productivity. You could take these sentences much further, but these are just the start of our descriptive sentences. If you have specific metrics, and not everybody has this, but if you have specific metrics of how you increase productivity, or how many students you worked with one-on-one to develop better study skills, or maybe you increased sales because you worked at downtown at a clothing store and you were the top salesperson. Well, these are great skills that add value that you could absolutely be talking about in your resume. And then this is where people get kind of lost and frustrated. Make an appointment. We are happy to work with you one-on-one with your specific content to make sure that it is exactly how you want to say it. Once again, I'll kind of pause here as I move through our 4 main topics. That we're going from topic 1 to topic 2 right now. If you have questions, like I said before, please throw them in the chat, and then I'll try and monitor them at the end. And if anyone's curious, I will go in and we'll kind of look at all this stuff live at the end if we have time. So please feel free to just unmute yourself or pop in the question in the chat. All right. So handshake. Handshake, like I said before, it's the vendor that we use as a university, and a lot of universities use Handshake as a vendor. And what it is it's a job search platform. And in that job search platform, you can search for jobs, you can look at campus events, you can look at employer-related info sessions, you can go to career fairs. All these things are wrapped up in Handshake. But before we do any of that, I encourage students to make a profile. And the reason why is because companies see your profile when you're in those events, when you're in those career fairs, graduate school fairs, or if somebody wants to reach out to a Chico State student, they often start here first. And if you have a completed profile, it can be exponentially helpful. So what I recommend is, at minimum, start with your profile photo, add a profile photo, and fill out some basic information. Once you have your resume, you can simply copy and paste that into your actual resume portion of your profile, your education, your work experience, your volunteer experience, all the stuff in the right-hand column over here. All stuff over here is going to be really helpful for you to just copy paste once you finish your resume. So 1, finish your resume if you can. 2, start your profile by copy and pasting a lot of your information. And I purposely deleted stuff off of mine to show that it gives you a little profile to completion piece. It shows you, oh, right now, Jeff, yours is only 50% complete because I still need to add some content. And here's some really important content to add. In this interest category at the bottom of the page where it says only visible to employers, there are 3 sections: job interests, cities, and roles. There's actually a ton of pieces to the interest piece, but these 3 are some of the most important. because people who have filled out the job interest, whether it's part-time, full-time, or internships, the cities that they're interested in working in, whether for a lot of us might be Chico as a student, or maybe after graduation you want to move either home, or maybe you want to go to Sacramento, the Bay Area, out of state, wherever, putting in that city of where you're interested in working can also be incredibly helpful. And then the last piece are job roles. So if you're interested in a specific type of role, maybe it's sales or accounting or something in the art world or teaching or engineering, this is where you can start to add this content. So if you clicked on interest, what you would see is this. And you can easily click and add content to your profile. So I can click on job interests, I can click on the cities, I can click on roles, and I can start to really develop my profile. And I put this little note at the bottom: 80% of students in Handshake who post interests receive a message from some sort of recruiter. And that's a big stat. So 8 out of 10 people who fill out this interest category, and I'm assuming also filled out their profile fully, are getting contacted by recruiters. Even today, this statistic is from like 4 days ago. Handshake sent out this list of stats during COVID, and this is a really important piece that people are getting recruited from universities by filling out these 3 things: your job interests, the cities you want to work in, and the job roles. And I would take it a step further and say, I would also recommend putting in a photo and putting in like your copy-paste resume, maybe annotate it a little bit if it doesn't fit, but for the most part, you're just filling out your profile. Once you're in Handshake, your resume is done, your profile is filled out to the best of your ability, then it's time to start searching for jobs. On the homepage of Handshake, and like I said before, we'll show you this. If we have time, we'll show you a live feed of this. If not, you can work with an advisor one-on-one to kind of dive in, or go to our virtual front desk, and they can absolutely help you walk through the basics of job searching. But I want to show this to you because I took some screenshots from yesterday. And very simply, if you want to search for jobs, I want you to go to this top piece on the top of the page and just click on the jobs button. Once you click on the jobs button, a lot of people want to go right to the search function and start typing in job titles, which is totally fine. But right now, right underneath that search function, it says there are 5,000 jobs currently in Handshake. And sometimes if we type in the wrong title, we come up with 5 jobs, or sometimes no jobs because we didn't spell it right, or the job title into that exact title frame doesn't actually fit. So my suggestion is to use the filters and filter down, and you can narrow down your search really quickly and really accurately. So first off, click on jobs, and then 2, these filter buttons by location, full-time, part-time, internship are really good second click. So if you're looking for a part-time job, great, and then focus down by the city. So location might be Chico, California, and you can reduce the circumference of where you're searching by 50 miles or 25 miles or 10 miles, or if you only have a car, maybe 1 or 2 miles, and you have this really tiny filter, which is great. Because yesterday when I was in here, I did part-time jobs within 2 miles of Chico, and I had over 50 jobs posted. So we're gonna look at that in a minute, but just note that by searching that, cool, I didn't even put in a type of job. I just wanted to see what total amount of jobs that are part-time in Chico that are within 2 miles or walking, biking distance. And you can absolutely scroll through 3 pages of jobs before even typing in a type of job. So I usually recommend that. And then after you find some jobs you like, there's a star button, you can click save, and then you can go back and reference those jobs later, which is nice if you're just trying to keep them all organized. As you're job searching, not only can you search for jobs in the top, but after you click on jobs, it brings you right to this jobs category. You can also search by employers, which doesn't sound as fun, but I think is a really good tactic if you are very specific to a job, or like maybe you're brand loyal and you really want to work at a certain company. Then follow them on Handshake. So similar to that of like a Facebook page or a LinkedIn page or an Instagram, you can follow them on Handshake. And the cool part is once you click on the employers tab, I typed in the FBI because I have a lot of students who are interested in doing something with criminal justice, political science, and they're like, okay, I think I'm really interested in working for the FBI. If that's the case, great. Follow them on Instagram, follow them on Handshake so you can see what kind of activity they're doing. So if you click on employers in the top, and then you could type in FBI up here, or over here I typed in FBI, and this person who I was talking with wanted to work in Florida, so I typed in Florida. And we found that Tampa FBI has a Handshake account. And the benefit of looking at the Handshake account and then clicking over here on the right-hand side, the follow button, the little yellow star, is that I can review the company bio very specifically for what they're trying to advertise in Handshake. They're going to show links to the websites that are pertinent for job searching instead of just doing a blanket Google search, which is totally fine, but they really focus on the links that are important. Almost always, there's a recruiter contact information. They'll put the email and the first and last name of the recruiter. And if they don't, oftentimes, if you contact us, we can help you find that recruiter if they're in Handshake. We can help you find or connect with that recruiter in some form or fashion, whether it's by phone or email or Zoom or something. And the last thing is, if they have a current job opening, it'll be posted at the bottom of this page. So the cool part is, if you're looking for a job, you can search by jobs or you can search by the employer. So if you have an employer that you're really passionate about, in this case, I typed in the FBI. Like I said before, it could be any company. It could be Oracle, it could be Google, it could be Yahoo, it could be whatever. It could be Inlo, could be a school district. This is a really nice way to just kind of check out what type of employers are here and what their current activity levels look like. So that's job searching by employers. And all this is found within Handshake, which you have direct access to with your Chico State username and password. So you don't have to go create a new account. The link to Handshake is on the Career Center website. It's also in your portal account. So when you're logging into your portal, you can click on Blackboard. You can click on a bunch of other buttons that a lot of people don't ever click on. One of them is Handshake. Make it your friend. I strongly recommend it. And I'll show you where to find that in a minute. So one of the things that I like to show students is this thing called 500 companies hiring students right now. So this dashboard that I took a screenshot of that's on the screen right now is what I see from my staff view in Handshake. And so it's not a student-facing view as of today. Hopefully it will be soon, but right now I can see it. So if you're curious and you want to make an appointment with an advisor, make an appointment and we can share this screen with you and we can look at remote jobs available for students. We can look at top jobs in this industry. We can look at who's hiring right now. If we scroll down, we would see 500 current part-time jobs, 500 current full-time jobs, 500 current internships, and they're nationwide. The other cool piece is that I now have a function called remote jobs available for students. So if you're interested in a part-time, full-time internship type of job that's remote, meaning you get to be in the comfort of your own home and you work maybe in Kansas, or you work in New York, or you work in Texas, or wherever, you're doing a remote position from the comfort of your own home. And a lot of students, that's a really appealing thing, especially if they're approaching graduation or if they're possibly wanting to do an internship and obviously you can't travel because of COVID. That can be a really attractive feature. At the bottom of this, I put a little Handshake article. They have an annotated version of this with a live dashboard at this link. And you can just type in hiring on Handshake 500 to the internet and it'll pop up in a quick Google search. But if not, I put this link in here. Like I said, this recording of this session will be online in a couple of days. You can absolutely just link it and click and go from there. But this is a really cool function that we have as a career center. And I like showing that to students because it's a cool resource that we have that we can share with you if you're job searching. Excellent. So now that we've made a resume, we've made a profile, we've started to search on Handshake for jobs or employers or just positions in general, I like to then jump platforms and use something like LinkedIn to find connections at the company. So within Handshake, like I said, you can find recruiters, you can find the person who posted the job very easily because it's located right there. But sometimes if you're job searching, you might not be able to find that. Sometimes they don't post it, or sometimes maybe you find a job on a different site like Indeed or Monster.com or something where you're just job searching and you're trying to find people at that company to connect with. I like to use LinkedIn. It's a really easy form for you to find companies and alumni or people who work at that company. So I use Nike as an example. They're up in Beaverton, Oregon. Very simply, all I did after I logged into LinkedIn, and it's a free account, you can make this today, is I typed in the word Nike to the search function. Then I clicked on it and it brought up to the Nike page. So Nike has their own page. And on the left-hand side of this page, you will see a home, about me, you'll see a life, you'll see a people position, right? This people position on the bottom left, this is really important because you can see all the people who work there, which is super cool. And on the right-hand side, I can see right now people who I know that work there who I'm currently connected with. So this is someone who's currently connected with me, who either works there or has worked there in the past at Nike. And you can see there are currently 86,000 LinkedIn connections that work or have worked at Nike that are currently on LinkedIn. So there are a lot of people. Let's narrow it down. So if I click on people in the lower left-hand corner, what it brings me to is this, all 86,893 employees that work there. And it already gives me a series of filters. So right now I can search by topical interest, like I can type in something like type of job, or I can scroll through these pre-populated filters. So this one's where they live, where they studied. And so if I'm going to click again, I'm going to show you. So there's more of these, what they do in the position, maybe what they studied in college. So I like to start here and just say, okay, maybe I'm a psychology major, but I really think I want to work at, for this example, let's say Nike. Well, cool. 735 people who are on LinkedIn who also work at Nike studied psychology. That's kind of cool, because the common misnomer is that all people are business majors who go work in businesses. And yeah, sure, a lot of people who study business want to go work in business. So that makes sense. They're one of the top majors at a big company like Nike. But marketing and computer science and economics, psychology, these are all big contenders for majors that often work at big companies, graphic design, accounting. So I often recommend students don't rule yourself out just because your major doesn't fit what the company is. A lot of companies hire by all majors, and they don't have a specific major in mind because they don't need a specific major in mind. What they're looking for is someone with a degree who can critically think. So if you are looking for a job and say you're a psychology major, but your dream is to work at Nike, don't rule yourself out because they absolutely still exist. So one is you can search by what people have studied, and then you can kind of go, okay, cool, there's other psychology majors. Let me click on that and let me see that list of psychology majors. You can also search by, when you're in the people section, you can search by colleges, or in our case, we're going to look at Chico State alumni. So for me, I can type in California State University, Chico, and I can look at where they studied. So right now, this absolutely makes sense. The top filter is University of Oregon, Portland State, and Oregon State, because this company is located in Beaverton, Oregon, and these are the universities that are right near there. So absolutely makes sense that they are top contenders for people who work at Nike. However, when I type in California State University, Chico, we have connections to me. We have 7 alumni who currently work at or have worked at Nike. And that could be anything from a Nike store to Nike headquarters. And I can start to slowly to narrow down on my search functions on LinkedIn where they work, what they do. So right now I've just clicked on the 7 total alumni that work at Nike. And I can see currently one of my students works at Nike. He's a student athlete, and he works summer camps there for Nike summer camps. Chris is a designer at Nike, and we have 6 connections, meaning that he's a second connection of mine. So we're not immediately friends, but we have mutual friends. So I might reach out to him and ask questions and do an informational interview. And the rest of these people, I don't have any direct connection to, but I could easily connect with them and make that reach so I can better connect with the company. This is the hardest part. So people get to this point and they kind of freeze and they go, oh, I don't know them. Why are they going to talk to me? And you've got a fair point. Like, why would they talk to you? They don't know you. You don't know them. How do I make this next connection? So one is you can simply click the connect button and hope they connect back with you. That's kind of the Hail Mary that a lot of people toss out there. Or if you're going to make a connection request to someone who you don't know, I suggest making a connection email or a connection message of some sort. So this is I found a new contact, Jeff, now what? So my suggestion is to write a message of some sort. And in this case, I don't write anything but unless I have a clear objective. And anybody who knows me knows that I make most of my decisions based on clear objectives. So if my objective is to get an informational interview out of this person, meaning ask them questions about their experience, great. I'm going to write my message short and sweet connected to that. If I want to follow up an application, then is this the best route for this? Do I email the person directly? Do I connect with them on LinkedIn and ask them about my application? It just kind of depends on the nuances of your job search. Maybe you're trying to follow a company influencer. Like I was on a big conference call with one of the career directors for Johns Hopkins the other day. And I was like, this guy's awesome. I really like him. So I went to LinkedIn. I followed him. I can watch his posts and stuff on LinkedIn. And then I sent him a connection request. But I didn't just blindly send one. I sent him one that was very strategic. Said, hey, I saw you in this seminar. It was awesome. You added a lot of information on X, Y, and Z. Can we connect? I'd love to follow up sometime, right? It was a very soft kind of ask. I'd love to follow up. And he wrote back a day or two later and said, yeah, absolutely. When do you want to connect? And it was a really, really cool experience. And this just happened a few days ago. So knowing what your objective is when you're trying to connect with somebody can be a really helpful piece when you are actually trying to connect with someone you don't know. Yes, a chat function. Are we going to share these slides later on? Absolutely. The slides will be, this whole video will be recorded, is recorded, and will be shared online. And if for some reason we can't figure that out, we'll just post the slides and you can absolutely see those. Yes, 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 and more yes. So when it comes to writing this outreach email or writing this connection to somebody who you don't know, I'm a big fan of writing a strong subject line. So if you are writing an email to someone you don't know, I'd be very clear with my subject line. So for me, for my example, this director from Johns Hopkins, I wrote like something on the lines of, where I saw him. So blank webinar, thank you, follow-up email. Like it was very simple. My initial connection emails are probably no more than 4 or 5 lines because the person on the other end is probably busy. I'm going to make that assumption. And they don't want to read multiple paragraphs about your life or your story. And sometimes we forget to even ask a question in there, and then it just becomes a monologue about ourselves. So with that, I encourage you to be clear about why you're reaching out. As a fellow alumni from Chico State, I had questions about your company, your industry, and then be specific about your ask. Can we meet up? Can I call you? Do you have time this week to connect? My schedule is open. What is your schedule like? You're making these specific question asks, but for you absolutely need to be flexible because you're the one making this ask. And if they send a time, then you try your best to make that time. Yes, I can meet Friday at 8 p.m. Okay, excellent, great. Let me see if I can move around my schedule to make that happen. If you say yes to a connection and you're trying to connect, try your best not to bail. Because it's really easy to bail on someone you don't know. And it's one of the biggest accidental bridge burners that people do is that they'll try and connect, they'll find a time, and then they just don't show. So I usually encourage students, if you're gonna make a request, follow up and be hyper professional about it. So make that ask, meaning ask a question, be clear that you need something from them, whether it's an informational interview or time to be spent on whatever you're trying to connect them with. And lastly, if and when it happens, great, send a thank you email. Thank you so much, it was great meeting you. And I like to also add another ask in that thank you. Like if you do need something else, like you wanna connect with somebody else in the industry, or if you want to you have your resume passed along, after you make that connection and it feels like the right time, and that's subjective, so feel free to toss that back and forth between a career advisor. We do this stuff all the time. Sometimes it's important for you to ask another question to keep that relationship going. I linked an article at the bottom of this on how to ask for an informational interview. It's pretty short and sweet, but it covers a lot of these very similar topics. So I'd be encouraging you to click on it just to look at it and read if you'd like more information on that. All right, so if you'd like, I'm happy to go through some of these things live on Instagram, on LinkedIn, or Handshake, and kind of show you if people have questions. But as I slowly start to wrap up, our upcoming job fairs and graduate fairs are coming up quickly. And you can register for these fairs. So if you're looking at going to grad school or just interested in meeting schools and asking questions, you can very quickly from our homepage register for the fair and then register for schools you want to talk to. And what they are is they're like info sessions. So I can, just like if you're going to a regular in-person fair and you're walking up to a table and meeting an employer or going to an information session, you can register for those just by a click of a button. And webinar, you just pop in, I encourage people to dress up and look professional because you're hopefully getting a job or going to graduate school. And you can live connect with a recruiter from either a graduate school or a career option. So like a career fair, same concept where you click and register for the fair, and then you register for the companies that you want to meet with. And I encourage you to do that. The JCP, or I put pennies in there, JCPenney's event is an event that we're doing in the fall. It's coming early October. We don't have exact set dates yet, but what it is it's a additional 30% off of anything career related in the store. So this event is typically in store. We have like 700 people to turn out every year, but due to COVID, we're doing the event virtual, but you can still use your coupon code in store if you're near a JCPenney's near you. So the cool part about this is that we're trying to get people ready for the professional world. So suits, ties, dresses, skirts, shoes, oftentimes briefcases, every once in a while there's luggage and all the stuff in between, undergarments, dress shirts, like all that stuff is all an additional 30% off. And once we get the list, we'll post a list of all the clothes, I mean, very detailed list of what's on sale, what brands, all that stuff. And all this, we partner with these companies is so we can bring you up to a level of where you want to be professionally. So if you're interested in these, go to these fairs, go to these events. We have our next webinar next Wednesday, and they're from 10 to 11. The next one's called Focus on Your Major and Career Options. So that's Focus 2. Focus 2 is located on the left-hand side of our page. This is perfect, Brandon, thanks for asking. Focus 2 is the self-assessment, and you log in with your Chico State username and password. And it's on the left-hand side of our page. And let me pivot over to that. So I'm gonna stop sharing my screen right now, and I'm going to exit out of my PowerPoint. And then what I will do is I will share screen with you so you all can see what all this looks like. In the chat function, someone let me know if this is gonna be helpful if I share my screen and kind of go through all this stuff. Perfect, yeah, okay, perfect. So I've seen people say yes all over the place. Excellent, okay, so let me go ahead and share this screen with you. So if you were on, there we go. Just by a quick either head nod or a thumbs up, can someone let me know if they can currently see my Google homepage? Just toss in the chat function. If you can see it, say yes. If you can't see it, say no. Yes, perfect, okay, thank you. So if we are currently in, if we're on the Chico State website, and I'll show you two things. The two things I'm going to show you is how to find a Focus 2, and then how to log into Handshake. Super simple. So from the Chico State homepage, and I'm going to look over this way because I've got a second screen, so forgive me for looking left. If you're on the Chico State homepage, you can scroll down, you can click on Career Center, or you can just simply Google Chico State Career Center. And this is our homepage. And I'll go ahead and toss this into the chat function so if people are interested on how to get to our homepage, it's right there. And then if you are, boom, there you go. If you're on the left-hand side of our page, you'll see the two things that I was just talking about. You'll see our Handshake login, which is right here. You can click there, it'll take you right to your portal account. And you can also see the Focus 2 login, which is a self-assessment. And next week's seminar is all about Focus 2. So if you have questions about Focus 2 and how that works, log in next week and we can walk through that. The Handshake login takes you right to the portal. So I'll click that and kind of show you because that's what we're talking about today. If this Career Center doesn't pop up automatically, just type in the words Chico to the school search function, and this will pop up. You log in with your username and password for your portal. And then if you log in for the first time, it'll take you to a Q&A, like a series of questions about what you're interested in, what you like, how can we focus on X, Y, and Z for the very first time. Then after you take that survey, and this is my staff view, so let me switch accounts real quick. After you do that survey, what you'll get is a login screen that looks exactly like what you're seeing right now. So this is the Chico State Handshake main page. And you'll see jobs up here. So we're saying you can search by jobs. You can click up here and you can start to scroll through these filters and kind of get comfortable searching for jobs. You can click on events, which is the other tab we were talking about. And you can see events coming up. So this is the career prep webinar series that we're currently doing. Ernst & Young is doing a pop-up event. Dell is doing a pop-up event. So if you want to just scroll through events on there, that's really helpful. And then you can filter by career fairs, virtual fairs, and you can start to see all the different types of events. And then lastly, the very first thing we talked about was about profiles. So in your profile, on the right-hand side, you will see an option for you to click on your face or your logo. Click on that and you can click on My Profile. And in your profile, you can make all these edits that I've shown you in the PowerPoint. On the left-hand side, you can see my face. It adds in degrees and when you graduated and your GPA. It adds in over here your interests. So if you want to fill that out, which is what I was saying, 80% of people who are getting connected with employers are doing it based on their profiles being filled out fully. And you can start to add in what you've done and your work experience. I mean, unless you're a full-time employee, you probably don't have this long of a work experience. I've just been an employee for 12 years, so I have a ton of stuff that I've done. So that's why it's long, but most people's are, a couple of lines here and there. So I just want to show you what that looks like for Handshake, just so you have some kind of visual representation of what logging in looks like. And I would absolutely recommend people making an appointment, stopping by our digital front desk, and just kind of getting to know your advisor, because I think it's one of the best or untapped resources on campus is making a connection with someone who can give you free career advice, because that's our whole job. All right, it's 10:47, so this is it. Unless people have specific questions, I'm happy to stay on.